Welcome back, guys. So let's today talk about the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, and I'm going to review every Texas Chainsaw Massacre film in the franchise, and it's one of those big horror franchises that I just have taken a long time to review on this channel. I've seen them all, some more than others, but I've seen them all at least once, and today I'm glad because I'm going to collab with Derek from Derek's Horror Corner. We decided on collabing together with all of these films because this is a franchise that that both of us are really interested in, and we have different opinions, but I like seeing us collab, and it is just a really cool idea. And I will have Derek on every single one of my collabs, or every single one of my videos for the collabs for the franchise. So without further ado, I'm gonna give Derek his share and get him to talk with his collab, and then after that, I will come back to you guys with my review. So, Derek, take it away.
I'm Derek from Derek's Horror Corner, and I'm really grateful to you, Corey, for letting me do this collab video with you for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I haven't rewatched this movie in a couple of years, but I'll be rewatching it and reviewing it on my channel soon. But here's kind of my thoughts on the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What a masterpiece. Do I think it's as good as the original Halloween? No, but man, this movie was really awesome. Like the Texas setting, the crazy family in the middle of nowhere that eats people. It's just such a creepy setting and atmosphere. So I really like the tone, the setting, the atmosphere in this movie. The Hewitt Sawyer family, whatever you want to call them, they're really awesome. Leatherface is an iconic villain, wearing human skin as his face, with a chainsaw, and he runs. That's like one of my favorite things about this movie, is that in the big chase scenes, Leatherface runs. I hate it when the villains walk really slow in movies. It's so stupid. That's why I love Jason, especially the earlier movies. Jason runs. I love that Leatherface runs, so he gets major points for that. And Leatherface is really brutal. He beats a guy with a hammer. He hangs a girl on a hook. He cuts Franklin up with the chainsaw. The crazy thing about this movie is Leatherface is brutal as hell, but they don't really show any gore in this movie, kind of like the original Halloween. There's actually, if you go back and watch this, there's very, very little like blood, guts, and gore in this movie, but it feels like there's a lot more gore than there actually is, which is really interesting. So I love Leatherface. I love the kills in this movie. Now, this movie does have some drawbacks, though, in my opinion. I think it's really slow-paced in the beginning, and there's a lot of unnecessary stuff in the beginning of this movie. Franklin is one of the most annoying characters that I've ever seen in any movie. I hate Franklin and his annoying attitude and everything he says. I hate Franklin with a passion, and I don't feel a bit bad for him whenever he dies. Also, I get what they're trying to do, but at the end of the movie, when Sally's screaming for like 20 minutes in a row, eventually it just goes too far. Like, I get they're trying to show like the terror and fear in her, but I get tired of listening to her scream for like 20 minutes in a row. But nevertheless, that's kind of nitpicks.
Alright, thanks, Derek. Thank you so much for collabing with me again. And now let's talk about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Overall, if I had to put this into like a couple words, this is one of the scariest movies I have ever seen. I have, the way that this movie is shot, the way that this movie feels, I feel dirty watching this movie, and I've watched it a couple times, and it's hard to rewatch this movie because it is so visceral and so real that it feels like you're watching a snuff film. It is that scary and that effective. The way it looks, the way it's shot. The opening narration is one of the creepiest sounding narrations from that guy who does the voice, telling the story about all these people are going to fall to the cannibalistic family. And this guy has one of the scariest voices ever. And it's hilarious because I read online that this guy who did the narration in the opening, he did this just to get a joint. That was his reward. It was just he wanted a joint. So they said, "Oh, you can do this narration for us and then you can get a joint." But that's so cool that like this guy has one of the scariest voices in like a movie narration ever. But all I wanted to do was just get a joint. That's hilarious. I really like that. And then we get this again really terrifying thing of all these dead bodies being having pictures taken of because everywhere around this location in Texas is being ransacked. Like all these graves are being robbed, and skeletons and body parts are being misconstrued and put on graves, and it's because of the Sawyer family. But it has this incredibly scary noise where it'll show the dead bodies and they take a flash, and the noise of the flash is one of the most scariest noises ever, and it truly is scary. And I don't know what it is, but that is one of the creepiest noises ever. So that opening is literally the most effective opening I think ever. Like it literally gets me every time. It is disgusting and disturbing, but I love it. It's that effective and that feels that real. So it's terrifying. And then we get to our main set of characters, which are totally fine characters. Like they just like it's weird because these characters, like most horror movies, are just there to be killed, which is fine. These actors are all fine in the roles. Like Sally's fine, and the guy who plays Franklin, I think, is fine. And he's not as annoying as everybody says he is, in my opinion. He has one annoying scene in the movie, and but he's also dumb because like I mean it's not his fault, he's in a wheelchair, but like there's this dumb scene where it opens up with the characters and then a semi passes by the road and the force makes Franklin's wheelchair fly down the hill, and he falls and tramples on the down the hill, and I think that's meant to be humor, but it wasn't really funny. But yeah, the Sally and Franklin and these three other characters they're all going to visit this farm that like Sally and Franklin's grandpa used to work at. I think that's what it was. Now they encounter this hitchhiker who is one of the members of the family. But the thing I love is that this guy, you already know something's off about him, but this is a scary-ass performance. This is a horrifying performance. Like, this guy, they bring him into the van, and he just sits there shaking, laughing to himself, talking to himself. He has this wild card personality where he can do anything, and what he does, like, he grabs a knife and just, like, cuts his hand, like, all the way down and starts bleeding. And then, like, he lights this thing on fire and then takes it out, like, and he does all these creepy ass things. And he even grabs Franklin before they throw him out, and like cuts Franklin on the wrist. And this performance is genuinely terrifying. It is freaky as hell. And that guy who did the hitchhiker's performance is genuinely frightening. It scares me how effective it feels. So I love that, and I love when they go into the house for the first time after they visit the other house. The first three, before Sally and Franklin die, go in there, of course, and get killed. But it is, again, so disturbing because first off, Pam goes in and then gets... Or not Pam, actually, no. The Kirk, he goes in there first, and it is scary because he goes into this house where it seems very unsuspecting. The house, how it looks on the outside, looks like a normal-ass house. Nobody would take a second glance at this house and think, oh, this is scary. Like, this is a horrifying house. But he goes into the house, Leatherface, you see for the first time, bashes him on the head and just pulls him into this meat room and just slams the door. And then Pam goes in, and then she gets impaled on a hook, and it is scary as hell. And she falls before she gets impaled on the hook. She falls into the room where all these skeletons, like hundreds of skulls and skeletons and like dead, like body parts that have decayed, are just sitting there, and she's thrown into this room, and it is horrifying. And again, the thing about this movie is that it's not bloodless, or it's not bloody at all. It's literally virtually bloodless, and that's what makes it even more scarier. Because whenever I read online reviews for this movie whenever it came out, and a lot of people said it was a bloodbath of a movie, and there's really literally almost no blood. It's like the original Halloween, where there's literally no blood except for like in a few little instances. But because this movie was so scary and so intimidating, that people thought that it was bloody and that it was that gory. So they both get killed, and then the other guy gets killed as well. And as this happens, you get Leatherface, Gunnar Hansen, who plays Leatherface in this one, is genuinely one of the scariest villains in any movie, like The Hitchhiker, where there's just a moment where, because he's got this skin mask on, that's what Leatherface wears. There's this moment where it just zooms in, the camera zooms in on Leatherface's face, and he's just licking his chops, and it really scares me. It's hard to say because I'm losing words thinking about how scary this is. Genuinely one of the scariest movies ever. And his squeal is pretty scary. Like Leatherface, he squeals like a pig, and you would think that's funny, but it's actually pretty scary. And I love how like in the darkness, whenever it becomes dark in the movie, because it starts out in the day and it's just Sally and Franklin left, and there's this fantastic moment where they're just out in the woods in the dark, and then they turn the flashlight, and Leatherface is right there with a chainsaws Franklin down and kills him. And then Sally runs through these woods and is chased by Leatherface through the house, all these locations, and it is genuinely terrifying. Like having this guy with the chainsaw chasing you around, the one girl left, it is genuinely horrifying. And then she encounters this guy who runs the gas station, and he is another member of the family, the third member. Where this guy, he looks normal, as opposed to the Hitchhiker and Leatherface, and he's the one who keeps under wraps that like they're killing people, and like having them go and rob the graves as well. So it seems like when Sally meets this guy, like he's a normal guy, but then you realize that he's the third family member, and the whole rest of this movie is genuinely, again, one of the scariest things in a movie ever, where Sally, again, she runs through the house, through the woods, she meets the third member of the family, and then what they do is they tie her up in the house while they're eating, and they torture her to, like, basically almost to death. Like, she just sits there and is tortured and is losing it, and it is, again, so incredibly effective, like with how the performances are, with how Marilyn Burns, I think that's her name, who plays Sally, like this, it looked like she literally went crazy on screen. And I love the final confrontation where she eventually makes it out after they have Grandpa, who try to like hit her with the hammer in the head, but of course he's either too old or he's dead. I couldn't tell. But Grandpa is too old, so she jumps out the window, and then there's that ongoing chase with two people, with a Hitchhiker and Leatherface with the chainsaw. Again, scary as shit. And like she's running down the road, and then there's a semi that passes, and then I love that the Hitchhiker just gets demolished, like he gets ran underneath the fucking semi. That's a great way to end it. Great way to get rid of that fucker. Because he was just, man, it was so great to have him gone. And then Then I love that Sally is still being chased by Leatherface, but she's got one guy gone, even though she's covered in blood now and is hallucinating even more. But she is running, running away from him, and the semi driver grabs her, takes her into the semi with her, so Leatherface won't get her. And then a truck passes by, where like she gets in the truck, but it takes a long time because she's limping and she's in trouble. Where like she's trying to get in the car and Leatherface is right there, but she makes it in the car. And this is one of the most satisfying horror endings ever, even though it ends on such a disturbing and bittersweet note where like Sally gets in the back of the pickup truck. She starts driving, or the semi truck starts driving away. And I wonder where that semi driver went, because I saw him run away, but you don't see what happens to him. Like he just runs off screen. But Sally gets away. I don't know if the semi driver does. You don't see what happens. But Sally gets away in the back of the pickup truck, and that moment of her just screaming and laughing and seems so happy that she escaped Leatherface. Like she is laughing insanely, like she has gone insane. And then it just shows Leatherface dancing around with the chainsaw, like I guess in anger. I couldn't really tell, but the dance is iconic, where he's just dancing around with the sun glare. It's really moving. Just a very moving image of like him with the chainsaw. But that ending, just like the whole movie is fantastic already, but that ending was truly blows me away. Like it is disturbing. It is scary as hell. Having her make it out is fantastic, but then she's probably just gone for good. Like her mind is gone. She is, what has happened to her will never will completely change her forever. So I love that ending as well. I just love everything about this movie. I love how it's very bloodless too, but it is one of the most scariest movies ever made. And it still affects me every time I watch it. I can't not feel scared. And it's weird. And I never feel this way about any movie, but after I finished it, I kind of went to bed and I thought that this movie really did affect me. And I was sitting there kind of nervous, like while I was trying to go to bed. Like it was weird. I never feel, and I'm an adult, I never feel that now, but this movie had that effect. So this one is just, it blows me away. It's incredible. One of the absolute best horror movies of all time. One of the most scariest, most disturbing, most visceral, and I feel like I need to take a shower after I watch it because it feels like a legit snuff film. It is horrifying. One of the best horror movies ever, and I love the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Derek, for collaborating. Next up will be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, which I love as well for different reasons. And tell me down below what you think of this classic, and thank you guys so much for watching.